Miss Londa. Sip and Talk Podcast. Sip and Talk Podcast. Sip and Talk Podcast. Starting soon. You are tuned in to Sip and Talk with Miss Londa. We have a good show for you this evening. I have Reshae Danielle joining us. Reshae is a book author. I also have Rusty joining us, and we're going to be doing a topic after the interview with Reshae, and we'll get into that topic soon here. But for now, let's welcome Reshae.
Hello. How's everyone?
How are you today?
I'm doing good.
Okay, and where are you from, Reshae?
I'm from Mississippi.
Oh, okay, down south. Okay, good.
Yes.
All right. And you are a book author. Oh, before we get into that, how many kids do you have?
I have 3 kids, 18, 13, and 8.
Okay, all right. And you are a book author.
Yes, I am. Well, the book is not out yet. It won't be out until September, but it's my first self-published book.
Okay.
It's my baby. I've been working hard on it. So
I'm okay. And can you tell us a little about the book?
absolutely. My book is called The Grass Ain't Greener. The book is basically about me going through relationship from my divorce into getting into a new relationship, and just thinking about some things that was presented to me at first, but wasn't what it was supposed to be. So, and then me going along throughout the divorce, and now me becoming the woman that I am today.
Okay, and so that's what inspired you to write the book then, in other words.
Yes. Yes.
And how old were you when you got married, if you don't mind me asking?
I was young. I was only 22 years old when I got married. We only was married for 2 years. The divorce was a mutual decision. So the book is going to entail all of that: why we got divorced, what brought about the divorce, after the divorce, all the feelings of me and the kids is in the book.
Okay. And is there anything else you do besides writing, besides the book?
Yes, I am, as they say, a serial entrepreneur. I have a tax business. I've been doing tax for 7 years. I've recently just started doing freight dispatching. Me and my now husband is starting a trucking company. We are investing in a party business. So yes, I am. And plus I'm a mom, of course. But I have a lot going on.
Okay. And so you remarried, I heard you say, your husband.
Yes, I am. Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been married?
Been married for 5 years now.
Good. Okay, great. Glad to hear that's
Yes.
working out. All right. That's neat.
Yes.
All right. And so, Rusty, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for asking.
All right. And where are you from?
Originally from Manchester, England, but I've been living in Texas since I was 6, and I'm 31, so you could say I'm Texan, I guess.
Okay. Would you like to tell us about some of you as well too, Reshae, some of the different family values and upbringing that you guys might have, in your family, being from
neighborhood,
England, different.
Well, definitely neighborhood was way different. Like the close knit neighborhood that we had when I was growing up in England for the first few years that I was there was way different dynamic than when we came to the States. Because like in England, it's row houses. So there's like 100 houses on one side of the street and 100 houses on the other side of the street. And you're close enough, you can reach out your front door and slap your neighbor's front door. So, they're not very big houses and everybody's real close. So like you'd have, women hanging laundry out. All like you'd look down the alleyway and it'd be everybody just seemed to time it at the same time so they could all chat and find out what all the gossip was going on. So it was a little different than when we moved to the States, where everybody was a little further apart, and people are a little more standoffish about their neighbors and stuff like that.
Right. Well, I'm from, as I said, in Mississippi, and I'm from the country, like literally the country. As you
there's
can
nobody.
see, so Yeah, so I grew up like family. We like my family, we stayed on the same street. Well, my dad's family, we stayed on the same street. My mom's family was in another town, but it was only like 15 minutes away. So we are a close knit family. I have four sisters and one brother. So I come from a big family. We talk every day. As far as what he's stating with England, I would love to see that. Like that sounds so amazing. Just to see, the houses so close together, and then like growing up, I bet that was fun having your kids and all that,
Oh
knowing each
yeah,
other and
there was
and
so
playing
many
all
like
that.
parties and stuff like that. Yeah, there was so many events and stuff, and like they would do them big ass chicken pox parties. So you'd have one kid have chicken pox, so all the moms would get together and buy a bunch of ice cream and make a bunch of food, and they would all just play
Oh
together and
wow!
get it all over with. So the whole neighborhood
At
would
the
have chicken
same
pox,
time, right?
and it'd be one and done. Everybody, the whole neighborhood would be cleared out. You wouldn't have to worry about it. So yeah, that's how they did that. But no, as far as family goes, we're pretty close. As far as my immediate family, uh, I got a brother and a sister, and I got another sister too. But she lives in England. She comes back and forth and stuff and visits. And but I'm pretty close to my dad and my mom. I mean, there was some troubles as a teenager with my dad where he was like coming to terms with the fact that I was becoming a man, and he had to like let go and realize that he was getting older and that he wasn't going to be able to do the things that he used to do. And he still battles with that at 60, at 62. He still battles with that every day. He gets out there and he's like, well, I just can't do it. It's frustrating as hell. I was like, well, you're getting old. You know what I'm saying? Give me a call. That's why I'm younger.
Right.
That's my job to come help you. So yeah, I'm pretty close with my family for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any like Christian values or anything?
No, we grew up non-religious. So my mom, she was an atheist, and my dad, he was a Christian. He was a Baptist, but he didn't really practice or nothing like that. So we got all the Bible stories and stuff because my mom, she always believed not in keeping us away from religion, but giving us our own choices. So she
Right.
exposed us to everything. So I mean, especially the neighborhood in England that I grew up in. Not so much when I moved to Texas, but when I was in England, the neighborhoods were so diverse. You'd have a Polish family next door, and then the next door to them you'd have a Muslim family, next door to them you'd have somebody from Nigeria, next door to them you'd have somebody from somewhere else. So it was like, it was just everybody got along kind of thing. So it was different, when I moved to the States. But so yeah, that's just a little bit about how childhood or whatever went.
Yeah, and like I stated, I'm from the country, so we have a Christian background. I grew up when I was younger, Church and God in Christ, but now I am Pentecostal. I've been going to the same church since I was maybe 8 or 9. So
Mhm.
my whole family goes there. My mom, my dad, my brothers and sisters, and now I'm raising my kids in the same church with the same pastor. So I do understand. Like I still give them their choice, but we did grow up in the church. Like we
Oh
have,
yeah, yeah,
the
no, for
religious
sure.
background.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
And I
as my
respect that
daughter,
too. Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, that's definitely a big part of some people's like family
right,
life surrounds the church. It's not necessarily like because I've met people that I knew who were personally atheists, but they still went to church with their family because it was a family thing that they did. It was just a family
right.
event kind of thing,
Hmm.
and a commune. You know what I mean? Like everybody gets together and eats and fellowships and hangs out and that kind
Yes,
of thing. So
right.
even for me as a because I struggled with it my whole life. I struggled with religion until I was about 18 or 19. And actually, it was a youth minister that told me it was a really cool guy that that was a youth minister. And he had told me straight up, he was like, if your spiritual battle is that hard for you, he said you could still have, like a connection to something, a connection to some type of
Hmm.
spiritual without having to be here and, like kill yourself to believe in something that you don't and can't really believe in. So, I mean, so it's not like we were ever like we had spirituality in the home for sure. Absolutely. It
Right.
just wasn't attached to anything.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so is England, is that considered a country? Is not a part of the states though, right?
No, England is a part of the United Kingdom. You got England, Wales, and Scotland and Northern Ireland.
Okay. And so, sometimes in different cultures, marriage is different, done differently. How was that with.
Oh, it's the same pretty much over there as it over here as far as marriage and everything goes. Yeah. Those aren't those that's not too far different as far as culture goes. And church is pretty big over there too. It's just I happened to get my mom happened to be an atheist, and her dad happened to be an atheist too. Even though my grandma, she went to church and stuff like that, but my grandpa never did, and then my mom never did, and we always were given the choice. So my brother, he's real big in the church, real huge in the church. He goes, I mean, he might as well be a deacon. He's too young, but he might as well be when he's there. He's there as much as the deacons are there, kind of thing. But uh as far as like I go, and then like even my older sister, she has she's married to a Caribbean, a guy from the Caribbean, and they have a lot of spirituality in their home, but it's not really tied to any uh it's just like uh he's from St. Martin, so it's like a it's Christianity in a way, but it's not really attached to anything. It's like a real spiritual way that they worship or practice how what they believe or whatever. So I mean, it's different. It's like a huge, and then I have a Korean side of my family too. I had a Korean uncle growing up, and he was married to my dad's sister, and they had the Korean church, so we got to go to the Korean church, and it was a Christian church, but we got to see how somebody else in like a whole different, like, I've been to churches, I've been to tons of different churches, black churches, white churches, and it's all similar, but once you got to that, it was so different. Like as far as like the experience, it was way different, and you had to listen to it with headphones and a translator in a booth translating for everybody that can't speak Korean. So I mean, it was a unique experience too. So.
Okay, that's different. Reshae, so this book that you wrote, is this going to be your only book, or do you plan to write more books?
No, it's gonna be a series of books. At first it was gonna be my only book, but the more I'm writing and the more um things are rolling, it's gonna be a series of books. So
Well,
this one is probably gonna be three, and then we're gonna branch off to something else.
so the three books will be branched off your life, and then you're
Yes,
gonna start writing about other. So
other
the other
things.
books
Yes.
that you might write about, will they be fiction, nonfiction?
I'm not sure. I may touch into nonfiction because I can easily take what I'm writing and make it a fiction, a nonfiction book. So we're not sure yet. We're just trying to finish this one and work on the next two.
Okay. Do either one of you guys have a podcast?
I started, but I stopped like years ago. I haven't
Yeah,
started yet.
so what I do actually is I'm a social media manager for a podcast company in the town that I live in. We have like 80 podcasts that we've done. We have 30 active podcasts. So we have like, 50 in the catalog plus 30 that we're actually producing right now, and I actually am a part of two, and we're producing two new ones that I'm working on too. So the
Okay.
two that we produce right now is a King of the Hill rewatch podcast. So we go through and watch an episode of King of the Hill and then talk about that episode and go through that, and that one's doing really good. Within the first month we've gotten I think we're at like 780 or so downloads on
Oh,
that one or whatever. So that's just the first month of that one. And then I have a David Letterman one too that we're working on. That one's moving kind of slow, but I've been able to get in contact with some like TV producers and stuff, and people that have actually like worked on his show. And I've got a few interviews that are like in the can. We got to get edit them up and polish them because they're over the phone. So we got to polish them up and then put them out after they're edited. And then I'm working on two new ones. One is with a buddy of mine. We were going to call it Ebony and Ivory, but we did some research, and it was two drag queens that already had a podcast named that. So we were like, we're gonna have to come up with something different. So we're gonna call it I'm So Hood, the podcast. So that's the one that we're
okay.
working on. And then we have another one that I'm working on with a different buddy. It's about video games, like retro video games. And it's called The Digital Tomb. So
Oh,
got a lot going on, kind of thing.
you're busy.
Yeah, yeah, trying to be.
There's a question from the audience. She wants to know, what denomination do you go by? Rusty.
Oh, me? I would say, I mean, I'm spiritual, but I'm non-religious. So I mean, I don't really prescribe or subscribe to any one religion,
Yeah.
but I believe in a higher power or a higher something. There's something out there. I don't know what it is, and I can't put a name to it, but I know I feel something from whatever it is, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah. I pretty much, I'm the same when it comes to religion. I believe in God and spirituality, but I don't go to an actual church, and I don't really just put a name on it. I just know I
Mhm.
believe.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so then, Rusty, can I ask you, what are some of the struggles in being a podcaster?
Time really is the biggest struggle, and then people like being committed. So like I said, we have over 80 that have been done, but we only have 30 active. So you get people that come in with hopes and dreams, as $100 bills, and they come in, they're like, oh well, I'm gonna make a lot of money doing this. And you can't make people entertaining no matter what you do. It doesn't matter how many podcasts you start. If you don't have the right people to do your podcast with, your podcast can't go nowhere, because you can't force people to be entertaining on a camera or on a microphone.
Right.
And it's not the same as just sitting and having a conversation in your backyard, but it is at the same time. So the way I've always said it is dull people make dull podcasts, and you can't make dull people shine. That's just how it
Right.
is.
So, what would you consider dull?
Well, for me, it's just like somebody who can't have a conversation. There's some people that you could sit in a room with for hours and say 5 words, and like you could
Mhm.
try to pull it out of them, but some people you just can't pull it out of, no matter how much
Right.
their heart's in it. You can't just say, yeah, okay, uh-huh. You can't just respond the whole
Right.
time. You got to
Yeah.
spit something back. You got to spit something
Right.
back. And then unpreparedness is a big thing too. You get people that are like gung ho about it, and then you get in to talk about the subject, and then you could tell that the one person on one side of the table has done the research, but the other person on the other side
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
is trying to is trying to bounce off of this other
Yeah.
person's research, trying to pull stuff and think they could make the podcast work, but it don't work that way. But so yeah, so it's just time and preparedness is really like my biggest things. I like people to be if you say you're gonna be there at 10, time's money. If you're not there, you're here at 10:10,
Right.
and that's 11:10, the podcast recording ending, and now we've already bumped everybody back 10 minutes. Just got to record after you, kind of thing. So you've not only
Mhm.
messed up my day, but you've took 10 minutes away from everybody else at the same time. So that's 1 hour of time lost because you were 10 minutes late, and they don't. A lot of people don't see it that way because they're not. They come in, they record, then they go back to whatever they're doing.
Mhm.
So what I've noticed is, it seems like, um if you're not really bringing drama, you don't really get much attention. That's just how I feel. Like, I've been doing this for a year, and I noticed, like, the ones who have all the drama, even just in the podcast world on YouTube, even amongst the YouTubers, they have
Mhm.
drama, so their numbers are going up, and I'm like,
Right.
It's drama. That's what people want. People want entertainment, and
Mhm.
it's sad to say, but the best form of entertainment is human beings being human beings. You know what I mean?
Right.
wow.
Right.
Okay. So just talking about things like real life situations, maybe even relationships, or just things going
Yeah,
on.
Mhm.
people really want to hear things from real people. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, yeah, we
Right.
like hearing interviews from celebrities and stuff like that. But those YouTubers that they get big off of interviewing just normal people first before they get to the big people. You know what I mean? And I'm just now
Mhm.
like breaking through to talking to people like uh, a guy that I have interviewing. I'll go ahead and give a little shout out to him. His name's Jay Stern. He's a producer for he produced Rush Hour 1, 2, and 3,
Oh,
and he was one of
Oh.
the listed producers on that movie. And I've been able to break through and get an interview from him and stuff like that. So I mean, it's been a long time for me doing this kind of stuff too. I've been in content creation since I was in high school in 2005. I've been making content, and this is like my first push through to get any kind of traction anywhere. So it takes some time.
Yeah.
It's commitment for one. You gotta be satisfied with being broke a little bit to get the time in to get there. And a lot of people,
Yes.
they come in with like this fake sense of, oh, I'm gonna get rich in like 10 minutes off this
Mhm.
shit. I'm gonna come in and my money's just gonna stack and triple just because I'm talking on a microphone, when it don't really work like that. There's behind the scenes marketing. You got to make phone calls. You got to have difficult conversations that you don't want to have with people, try to get
Mhm.
sponsorships. I mean, and it's
hmm
like you feel like you're begging, but you're not. At the end of the day, you're selling a product. So like a lot of people can't do that. They can't call and
Right.
get the sponsorships they need, even if it's just $50, a month, just to help me get a new microphone or a new something or a new whatever. Nobody wants to make those phone calls because they don't. Nobody likes hearing the word no. Nobody likes being told no.
Yeah,
So
I
you got
was
to make
just
those
gonna say
calls.
it's
Yeah.
not just as simple as sitting in front of the camera and talking. I think a lot of people get that confused. Like I could just turn on the camera, go live, and just start talking. But you have to make sure that you have the right equipment. And trust me, I
Mhm.
just jumped in. So everything that I learned along the way. So I've kind of like probably spent more money than I should have spent because I had, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like I started off with, those mics that they have in church. I was told then I needed to get a condenser mic that if it's noise in the background, it's not going to pick that up. Your camera, your lighting, all of that has to be, correct. And
Mhm.
it's just a lot of things. Then, like he said, for like I pay for a producer, I pay for a producer. So you have to invest before it
Mhm.
actually gets to you know that
Yeah, I mean,
point.
unless you're doing like unless you happen to go viral or you happen to get just the right interview, like you stumble into the right
Mhm.
person and get the right interview, or uh, you like some podcasts hit a niche that's so pocketed that they're able to ride off that, and it's easy to do sometimes, but you just got to find the right thing that nobody else is talking
Right.
about that everybody wants to hear, and it's just not it's not as
Mhm.
easy to replicate. But I mean, it's not impossible, but you definitely practice makes perfect with anything. Talking is one of those things where you got to practice to be perfect at it.
That's true.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not easy to always communicate, especially on certain
Yes.
topics. It's not.
Nah.
So,
Yes.
Rashay, can I ask why you stopped?
Um, time, time, and then from one, I didn't know what I was getting into. When I first started, I was just because my podcast is actually my book name, so that's how long I've been doing this book thing. So
Okay.
I'm quite sure if I put it back out there because now, I have a little more time. I'm a little seasoned in the entertainment business to where I can probably start it again, but I will still have to do the investment. I'll still have to, get the mics and all that. So that is true. I was just doing something. I was just riding in my car, and if you hear it, you can hear me like actually riding in the car, like talking through my phone. So it was that part. I was just jumping out there doing something and didn't know what I was getting myself into.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, but just to piggyback off of the entertainment situation with like YouTube and stuff, and that's why I really like big myself on me in this book and me personally. Like I'm a upfront person. I'm not sugarcoating anything. I'm not sugarcoating my life. I'm not sugarcoating my book. I'm not sugarcoating anything. What you see is actually what you get. People like get the perception of YouTube like, oh, they making $1 million in 1 year. So they're gonna jump out there and want to, do YouTube, but not doing the research. And I think that is a big problem with a lot is the fame that they're seeing and not actually the purpose behind what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, because let's not forget about the research either. Like
Yes,
I've had
Research
interviews
takes forever.
where,
Research takes
yeah,
forever.
yes,
That's what
yes,
most of my day is, just doing research. So because I got to know about all the podcasts that I help with. So I got to
right.
research content for them. So like they may have like this surface level stuff, but I have to make original content for them for their social medias. So I got to go look up their content and dig deeper than they dug to try to find something that I could use that's not in their podcast. Because I don't want it to be new information or old information. I don't want it to be what they hear on
Right.
the podcast. I want to find something else because we throw it up on, you could throw it up on a Patreon or something like that and charge to go get that little extra tidbit or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because
Yeah.
and just think if you get an interview where you have to do research and you spend those days and those times on that research for the person to back out, you're like, oh,
Oh, yes,
I've
yes,
had that happen to me a few times, like seriously, and I
yes,
do like research because if you're it depending on what your interview is about and who you're talking about, you don't want to just jump on camera talking about or allowing somebody to come
Nah,
on your
exactly,
platform and talk about
exactly,
absolutely.
something that you have not done research on because it could fall back on you.
exactly. And that
So
is so true.
yeah.
And that comes back to that time thing I was talking about. It like people just don't understand that, just because they're coming on to be a guest and that's the only time they got to think about your podcast, you got to think about it all the time. So those
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
that they're not mindful of your time because all that matters is their time. So those kind of people,
Right.
whenever I have somebody that says, "Oh, well, I'm going to be there," and then 10 minutes right before I'm about to hit the show, they're like, "Oh, well, we can't make it." That's it.
I had
And I'll
I've
tell them,
had
"Hey, can we
people do that.
reschedule?" I tell them, "Nope." They say, "Can we reschedule?" I'll be
Right.
like, "Is your mom dead? Is your mom dead? Is your kid dying? Or is your legs broke?
Legitimate reason.
Like if
Yeah.
you
Right.
got a good enough reason, I'll work with it. But if they throw some bullshit out there, like, oh man, I'm running late. I'm over here. Let me finish my food. I'll be there in 30. Nah, 30 minutes is too much. I'll give you
Mm-mm.
5 minutes, but 30, nah, that's too
Oh
much.
yeah.
And then I'll tell
So
them straight up,
Definitely
I'm
is.
done. That's it. I was like, they're like, oh no, no reschedule. I said, I'll find somebody else to interview. See you
you
later.
know what I did for that? So now if a person comes to me for an interview, I have a deposit. It's a $20 deposit. You get it back if you don't forfeit. You get $15 of it back. I keep five for donation for my nonprofit because I have a nonprofit.
That's
Because
awesome.
when I've actually had interviews, and like you said, 10 minutes before
Mm-hmm.
the show, I'm prepared. I done did all this work for you to say, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to make it." Well, I'm sure you knew that hours ago. You
Right.
know, so I just started charging a deposit.
Yep.
Because,
That's
some
smart.
people look at it like, oh, it's just a little podcast. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
They do.
And they don't
Mm-hmm.
really take it as serious as you do. So I also have disclaimers and disclosures and requirements that I have, people agree
Mm-hmm.
to. I mean, I take it really serious.
Yeah, as you
Right.
should, if it's something you're serious about. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
for me, one of the work ethics being from the South, and then also being from a part of England where the working class people come from, because the North is like the South is where all the working, like the hard working people come from in the United States. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same way in England, but it's flipped. The South is like our North, and our North, it's flipped. So I come from two hardworking environments, and that's one of the things that's always been, man, I forgot where I was going. I'm just talking over here. Where are we going?
I was talking
The
about
work
how
ethic.
serious I take the platform and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They just, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. For me, it's take pride. Yeah, taking pride. So like my dad always taught me, whether you're pushing a broom or you're working for a company running $1 million machines, or you're a financial manager. He said, whatever you do, from the
Right.
smallest job to the biggest job, you always take pride in it. Like that better be the cleanest floor it's ever been, if that's what your
Mm-hmm.
job is. And that's what you got to do with this stuff. You got to take it with a sense of pride, or you'll never be able to be successful at it. And I think that's where a lot of people fail at, is being sincere, because that's one thing. Nobody wants to listen to somebody that's
Mm-hmm.
fake as shit on it. Nobody, and people can see
Right.
through people's bullshit easy. Nobody
Mhm.
wants to deal with that kind of shit when they're. I mean, I'm searching out to listen to podcasts. I want sincerity, in my
Right.
ear, kind of thing. So
Yeah, yeah, that's true. All right. Anything else you would like to say, Reshae? We had somebody else join in. I don't know what happened.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I don't have anything else to share.
All right. So, can you tell us a little bit more about the King of the Hill? Is that like your favorite show, and and that's why you're doing a podcast?
Right.
well, so the guy that I do it with, he's the producer and one of the owners of the podcast company, and he's like the main producer for the podcast company, and it's called Rogue Media Network. RogueMediaNetwork.com is where you can find all the podcasts or whatever that are produced or in production, or back catalog of what we have. But he was actually on Instagram looking for somebody to do a 80s theme podcast with. 80s TV was the actual theme. Well,
Mm.
I'm a kid of the 90s, so I mean, I caught a couple of the 80s shows because I'm an early 90s. So, there was still a couple of them on at the beginning of the 90s. And you were getting reruns all through the early 90s and late 90s, all those 80s shows. So I knew a little bit, but then he hit me with the, hey, well, I kind of want to do a David Letterman podcast. And growing up, as a kid, I like to stay up late and watch TV, and there ain't much on late TV, So I like to watch
Right.
the interviews and stuff for David. And that's where the podcasting thing comes from too. I like to see all those little interviews that he would do and stuff like that of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I started doing that when I was like 11. I started watching him, and then when I was 15 is when it really got significant in my life, because I just discovered weed, honestly. And then so like I would go outside at night and I'd smoke, and then I'd come inside and I would watch all the late night shows, like everything that was on at late night. I'd have two TVs in front of me, and I'd watch everything I could watch. You know what I'm saying? And so that's where it all started really for me. And that's the King of the Hill thing. Kind of comes into play when me and him got to talking and realized, hey man, we're huge fans of King of the Hill, so let's do a King of the Hill podcast too. And then it snowballed from there to me like now we've got 1,000, almost got 1,000 downloads in a month. And he's like, oh, well, I want you to handle some social media for me for other podcasts and help me promote some other stuff and help me do some other productions and stuff like that. So that's how I kind of got looped into it all.
Okay. And do you do audio or do you do live or?
We have both. We have different formats for different podcasts. So some podcasts do audio only. Some podcasts have the video element as well. For our specific podcast, it's called BWAAA Bois King of the Hill Podcast, Rewatch Podcast. And so for that one, it's just audio only. And then on our other one that we're doing, this David Letterman one that we do, it's audio only right now. But the more interviews that we get, the reality is going to be that we're going to have to do a lot more video, because all these people that we're going to be interviewing are like movie people and TV people and stuff like that. So we want to kind of have a better production with that, because it's a good product for us to put out on YouTube and stuff like that, where our YouTube's not very strong. I mean, we got like 120 something subscribers, but all of our audio does pretty decent. You know, we get like over the 30 shows that we have, I think we get like 20,000 listeners a month, around 20,000 downloads a month over the 30 that we have. So some, you know, they don't get any, but there's others that do really good. There's a true crime podcast that we do that does really good called the Bloody Happy Hour. And then there's another one called Payoff with Pete, and he's a ex-sports guy. He did like some radio, I think, and some TV stuff. And now he does a Men's Addiction podcast where he brings on sports stars, and not just men, he brings on women too, and brings on people that are struggling with addiction or had struggled with addiction in their life. And it's mostly sports based, so it's athletes. Like I think the last interview that he did was with Michael Phelps's sister, so that one was pretty cool to listen in on.
Okay. All right. Yeah, the podcast world is it's not all cooked up what everybody think. Trust me. I've been at it for a year, and it's stressful. I've started learning to like kind of do things to pace myself so that I don't get frustrated, like create topics for a month. You know, learning to have a backup plan if somebody cancels, so that I'm like, oh, she canceled. What am I don't have a topic, you know? I mean, like I literally would have meltdowns. Seriously, it gets frustrating, but you have to learn how to create things to be able to help yourself cope. If I didn't, I don't know. I've quit like 1,000 times. Like, well, not actually quit, like that moment quit, but you know, get the show the next time I had a show. But yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not cooked up like everybody thinks. It's not easy. It's just not. And like I've been doing it for a year, and I'm still trying to figure out how to get audience. You know, I get after fact views, but it's like I don't know if it's something that I'm doing that's not catching the audience. Is it something that when I start out that's not grabbing them?
We don't do any live shows, so I'm not really sure on live, but I know live is really, really hard. I actually used to stream on, do video game streaming and stuff like that, and all that video game streaming never ever would. I'd never get more than a few views, and I did it for years trying to figure out a different way and shouting it on social media. I don't know. That's just a really hard egg to crack, I think, on that one.
Right.
That's something. There's a podcast. There's a podcast. People that I kind of do some stuff with called the Late Night Playset. They've had Jay Leno on their show even, and they don't get more than maybe 10 people watching them at a time too. And it's just a really weird formula to break.
I don't know if this question is for you, Rusty, but she says, is the podcast your only source of income?
Well, working on more than one, but yeah.
Okay. And so you're a producer?
Yeah, I
Are
guess
you
you would call me that. Yeah, I produce. I mean, I help produce podcasts. Yeah.
and but do you ever like star on the shows, or
Yeah, yeah.
are
The,
you
the
just
the two that I star on is the King of the Hill one and the David Letterman one are the two that I co-host. And then
okay?
the two others that I'm working on that are in production is I'm So Hood and the digital tune. Those are the four that I'll be a part of for sure. Yeah. And the
And
Hood
so
one, the I'm So Hood. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go and get like people from like figures in the community like one of the ones that we talked about was getting the police chief. She's one of the first black police chiefs in this area, so we wanted to get her on the show and try to do some community outreach stuff in that same sense. Like, there's like a disconnect between law enforcement and the streets and stuff right now, real bad. And
Right.
I feel like that would help bridge it with the community. Is you get her on a podcast, just talking about real shit that she's dealt with herself. Being
Right.
a black woman in America, get her to talk about her struggle a little bit, so it makes it more relatable for all these other people that
Mhm.
think they're out to get them and stuff. Because where I'm at, I'm in Texas, so there's always been like a bad reputation between police and minorities, and not just minorities, everybody. There's a bad reputation for police, for me. Like I've been pulled over so many times for no reason. I couldn't even count them on one hand just because I have long hair and a beard. And I'll
Right.
roll my window down. I'm listening to my music a little loud. My music ain't wide enough for the neighborhood, whatever it may be,
True.
and I feel like that would be a good thing. So that's what our goal is too, is to have fun with it, do a little bit of community outreach while we're doing it. Uh, Maybe throw a literacy event, like that's one of the things we've been thinking of, throwing a literacy event for the kids or whatever at some of the local schools. And
Right.
so we're kind of we got a lot of stuff in the air, but we're going to start doing the recording for that soon. We'll probably put about 4 or 5 episodes in the bag, and then we'll probably start releasing them.
Okay.
Oh,
Going back to bringing the officer on, do you think it would be a good idea to bring on, two different cultural cops, so then they get it from, both
I think
sides?
so. I think so. One of the things that I had in mind for him was we have the police chief from one part of town, and then we have a lot of smaller communities that are like suburbs of the city that I'm in, that are all kind of interconnected, where the police all kind of work together. And I was going to go to like a more affluent part of town and pull a cop from over that away and bring him in and have
right.
him discuss what the differences is and how he polices compared to how the inner city police their areas. And because there's gaps, and there's places that are better funded, like the more affluent, they have more cops and less space and more money and more funding for those
Mhm.
cops. Whereas the inner city cops are spread out, and there's not enough funding going to them for the right things, the right programs, social programs. And to where we can stop taking cops to situations with mental health. And if you're going to take a cop, you should have a social worker with you, kind of thing.
Right.
So I never would ever say defund, but I say refund, like shuffle the money around into different places,
Yeah,
like because you don't want to take money away from something that is a necessity to have. You just want it spread around in different ways, so it's better.
Right.
The resources are better distributed, and it goes where it needs to go, kind of thing, to the right things. We shouldn't be buying assault rifles. We should be arming social workers with the knowledge and information of how to deal with these situations
Right.
instead.
Mhm.
exactly. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So she says, have you been to a lot of states? And then her other question is, oh no, it's not a question. She said, that is so nice what you are doing.
Yes.
She wants to know if you've been to a lot of states, Rusty.
uh I mean, I've been to a fair amount. Yeah, I've been to all the southern states. I've been to pretty much most of the Southwest. I've been far north from Texas, is like Nebraska. Uh, I've been to Wyoming, Colorado. Yeah, I mean, been to quite a few. I just haven't been to New England.
Oh.
That's the one place I haven't been to, is New England.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Well, do you guys have any questions for me?
No, ma'am. You continue to do what you're doing.
Yeah,
Thank
you keep
you.
rocking it out.
I
Yes.
will. Thank you guys for joining me and sharing your thoughts and opinions. And congratulations on your book, Reshae.
Thank
Can
you. Thank
you
you.
tell us where can we find it once it's published?
It will be everywhere. More than likely, very likely, Amazon will be the number one spot, but it will be on my website. We're building the website now, so I will get back to everyone that I've done podcasts with to present the website to you guys. But I
Okay.
will. It's September, so look out. The beginning of September, we're gonna have that book.
I'll mark it
And
on my calendar.
yeah, and
Please
tell us the
do.
name of the book again.
The grass ain't greener.
The grass ain't greener. Okay. All right.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys for joining. Thank you, Rusty, for
Thank you for
sharing and
having
giving
me.
podcast tips. I need those. All right, you guys have a good night. This was a good
You
conversation.
too.
Yeah, it
Thank
was. Thank
you.
you. Y'all have a great night, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
y'all.
You too. Bye bye.
Sip and Talk Podcast. Sip and Talk Podcast. With your host, Miss Londa. Sip and Talk Podcast. Sip and Talk Podcast. Sip and Talk